It's my privilege to welcome Dan Mulhern. He is the first gentleman of the state of Michigan, and he's a leader of leaders. He trains people how to become good leaders. And a great author has written his very popular book, Everyday Leadership. Dan, it's a pleasure to welcome you.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
Apart from being the first gentleman, you have a lot of other responsibilities that you take on.
Right.
And you take a lot of leadership roles and you train leaders. I just want you to elaborate on your path to training leaders to become leaders.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long and fascinating path with many different careers. In my case, I'm a lawyer. I've been a teacher and a social worker at different points in time, but always interested in leadership and believing that both individuals and groups can accomplish more than they tend to accomplish, and that great human mystery of how to get the best out of me and the best out of you and the best out of both of us has always intrigued me. So I've been at that hard for a long time.
Where do you see when you have up-and-coming entrepreneurs and the challenges? Are there any one or two or three streaks that you look for in a leader?
Absolutely. I think, the key is to clarify where you're going is always the most important thing. And sometimes that's trial and error in entrepreneurism. Sometimes you think you've got an idea and you find the market's a little bit different. But it's making that reshift, but really getting clear where is it that we need to be, whether that time frame is a year or 6 months, or even in a day, to think what's the accomplishment at the end, not to proceed without thinking where do we want to be. So that's number one. You can call that vision. You can call that begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey did. You can call it goals or measurables. But it's all about the same thing, not just beginning, but asking where do I want to be in the end, number one. Number two, energy. Every interaction causes a change in energy, whether it's a client, whether it's a banker, whether it's an employee, something's going to happen. And people are moved. They think up here, and a lot happens up here rationally, but they're moved here and they're moved here. And so constantly paying attention. Are they with me? Why aren't they with me? Are they excited? Why aren't they excited? Paying attention to those two things solves 98% of leadership problems. Where are we going, and how do we energize people to get there?
Your wife is the governor of this great state, and she's been, this is the second term.
Right.
There are challenges, obviously, that come with it.
Huge.
But this particular time, Michigan has taken a beating.
Right.
Just want your perspective.
Well, Schumpeter called capitalism, what do you call it, destructive creation, is that what it was? So we're in the midst of a lot of tumult and a lot of rebirth, and that's very, very painful to do. It's painful for individuals when what was working isn't working, when a marriage isn't working, when a job isn't working, when your old attitudes and values aren't working. And Michigan has to let go of a lot of stuff that isn't working. An old-style management labor isn't working. High wages with low education isn't working. People can beat us at that game in formerly third world countries and third world countries. So we have to adapt tremendously, and do that at a time when our resources to adapt are shrinking, whether it's business and their capital supply, or the government and its revenue supply. Things are very tight. So it's a real challenging double whammy. How do you do more with less, and how do you move from here, which isn't working, to a whole new place? And my wife, in my view, is doing an amazing job at that, but the results won't show for some time because this is a very tough transition.
Let's talk about your book. How did it come about?
Well, I've been writing a little piece on leadership every Monday morning for 10 years now, called Reading for Leading, and people could find that at my website, danmulhern.com. And after about 5 years of that, I realized I'd really built up a body of content and some key ideas, and I wanted to put some of those ideas together. And so ideas like I mentioned to you before, of vision and energy were key, or the role of communication, which is just so unbelievably important, is a very key message. I also write a lot about inclusion and the tremendous value of synergy and of different voices of immigrant communities that have constantly revitalized this country, and the importance of seeing that, the importance of seeing the value of women in the workplace, and moving to a mindset that embraces diversity and embraces difference and seeks synergy and win-wins out of that, not what are they taking from me and what are we going to lose. So over time, those ideas started to fix, and so that's why I wrote that book.
Finally, personally speaking, for you, are there any particular challenges as the first husband? You have a wife and a family, so.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've lived through transition, so I talk about a lot of it, but I grew up in a society where I expected to be like my father and be the breadwinner and the protector. I had very progressive liberal principles, and so I was happy to marry a great, beautiful, and highly talented woman. But that, seeing her surpass me, I guess you could say, in economic terms and public terms, was challenging to me personally. But it also opened up a new world for me. So I'm a living proof, I guess, of the struggle to recreate yourself. In my case, as a largely full-time dad and certainly the lead person at home, and as the supportive spouse of a great person, the flip of the experience I watched of my mother supporting my dad. So I'm on a leadership journey every day and enjoying it, and I'll enjoy the next trek, I'm sure, as my wife will too.
Dan, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.